Unspecific cozy season is just around the corner, and I don't know about you, but I'm ready to get under a blanket and zone out playing some cozy games. What is a cozy game? I could make an entire video discussing what is and isn't cozy because there's a lot of debate about it, but for me, it's a game with a relaxing premise combined with easy or slow-paced mechanics. For example, while Five Nights at Freddy's may have simple and easy mechanics, the premise of defending yourself from possessed animatronics isn't exactly relaxing. And in Celeste, while you're climbing a mountain to a relaxing soundtrack and beautiful colors, the hard mechanics can cause a lot of frustration, leading to a not cozy experience. While many people have different levels of tolerance to allow for harder or scarier cozy games, these are the parameters that I'm using for my personal list. Also, this is a list of games I've personally played over the years and enjoyed, so you won't see the flashy new game of the month. There'll be some older ones. I'll also go out of my way to mention some lesser known games, as I'm sure most of y'all are already aware of Animal Crossing or Stardew Valley. Let's get started. You've decided to take a summer job as Firewatch in the Shoshone National Forest to get away from it all. Your only connection to the world you've left behind is your walkie-talkie, through which your supervisor Delilah will answer your every call. As you do the duties of your job, you'll stumble across a sinister conspiracy in the woods, and build your relationship with the only other person you can talk to. So Firewatch came out in 2016, and to this day it is one of the most beautiful art directions I've seen in a game. I still have a wallpaper of it that changes with the time of day. It's what many people would call a walking simulator, and the interest of the game comes from the narrative and the dialogue choices. The story is pretty serious, and sometimes there will be quite a bit of tension, and you may feel like you need to rush to get to the next part, but don't let that stop you from taking your time, looking at the beautiful environment, and finding secrets that supplement the story. This is one of those games that I wish I could play for the first time again. Valhalla, at least I'm pretty sure that's how you say it, is a cyberpunk bartending game where you learn about the daily post-dystopian going-ons of your customers. Genre-wise, it's a visual novel where instead of dialogue options, the narrative changes depending on the drinks you prepare. Purposefully making the wrong drink for someone over and over again can get you some new details that you wouldn't have known otherwise. Or sometimes they'll just ask you to give them whatever's good, and what you make determines what the discussion is from there. Since it's literally just you talking to customers in a bar, everything from the writing to the visuals have to be on point, and it is. You also get full control of the jukebox so that you can create a playlist of whatever songs you enjoy the most. And there's intermissions where you can decorate your apartment with the money you've made bartending, which I always appreciate. So this next suggestion comes with a bit of an asterisk because its sequel is set to release sometime later in 2023, after which I'd probably recommend the sequel. House Flipper is what it says on the tin. You're going to go to a bunch of rundown houses and you need to fix what's wrong with them, whether it needs furnishing, blowing out some walls, or it's just dirty. While I do love the process of cleaning up a mess, my favorite part of the game is just buying houses with the money you made from odd jobs and transforming them into something I'd enjoy living in, or maybe giving them their own stories through how I decorate them. See, a teenage boy lives here. I even made a dream office that looks like a ramen bar. If you find yourself enjoying the game, there's a bunch of DLCs that add things like pets, gardening, and luxury homes. And if you're playing on Steam, there's tons of items you can add into the game through the Steam Workshop. And this is gonna sound corny, but it's as easy as one click and you're done. Now, Sticky Business was a game I was following on Twitter for a long time up to its release, because the hook of literally just running your own sticker shop is too good. In this day-by-day game, you're going to design your own stickers, print them off, pack them up, and send them off to customers. As you design new types of stickers, you'll get new customers with an interest in that sticker. As you sell stickers, you get both money and hearts that you can spend on getting more design elements for the stickers, new packing paper, and treats that you can put in as a bonus to your packages, which gets you even more hearts. It's such a small and simple game, but the gameplay loop is so addicting. I'm saving up to make a gay alien sticker. A Gaylian sticker, if you will. Man, this next one's gonna get flack, I know it. But, Cookie Clicker? Listen, I feel like idle games almost always fit into the cozy category, and I'm tired of hiding it. None of them do it better than Cookie Clicker. If you're a normal, well-adjusted member of society, basically what Cookie Clicker is you click the cookie. Oh, you have enough cookies, time to buy a grandma. Nice. And now I can finally buy my first antimatter condenser. Yeah, this is the type of game where if I explain it, you won't really get what makes it enjoyable. You'll have to try it out for yourself to see if you really enjoy this kind of game. Basically though, click cookies, numbers go up, buy new buildings, numbers go much higher, ad infinitum. Cookie Clicker distinguishes itself by having solid theming, a good sense of humor, and meaningful unlockables to work towards. About 30 hours in, I unlocked a farming minigame complete with crossbreeding, mutations, and everything. So now it's officially cozy. I'd recommend playing this game with anime or something in the background, as I would with most idle games. So, tell me what this noise means to you. Some of y'all just got a hit of nostalgia. Old School Runescape, the MMO from 2001, still exists in pretty much the same shape it did way back when. It's old enough to run on pretty much any computer, and just by the way the game controls, every action is simple and easy. Now, RuneScape is difficult to sum up in a short section like this, but the community is thriving on YouTube. You can find all sorts of guides, challenge runs, and people just playing the game if you need help. I've included it on the cozy list because I find some of the resource grinds in the game incredibly calming. Chopping wood, fishing, mining, cooking all comes to mind. And the music is just great for shutting your mind off. But even when it comes to combat, most encounters are just clicking on an enemy, keeping an eye on your HP, and looting whatever they drop. Actual intense gameplay doesn't really start until you're well into the game or you start bossing or PvPing. Until then, it's just a bit of a sandbox and you decide what you want to do. If you do start to get into it, launching the game through RuneLite allows you to add all sorts of plugins for better accessibility if you want it. And if you're worried about there not being much of a player base for such an old MMO, don't. In 2023, it is seeing the highest player counts it ever has. In Forager, as the name implies, you start off on a small plot of land and you use the resources around you to slowly build more and more buildings to get more money, new materials, and level ups so that you can then build better buildings so that you make even more money and get better materials. You get it. It's a little bit of a task simulator and borders onto being an idle game, but every now and again, while buying new plots of land to use for more foraging of course, you'll find a dungeon that gives you a gauntlet of puzzles to figure out to break up the grind. Other than those puzzles, this is the perfect sort of game to turn your brain off, run around, and make some progress. This is one of like 8 games that I've 100%ed on Steam, so I feel like that's enough to get my stamp of fun on it. Kind of in the same vein as Forager, but on a larger scale, we have Satisfactory. You are straight up building factories in this game. You start with an ore node, smelt it into bars, use the bars to make other materials, use those materials to make more advanced materials, and before you know it, you have something like this. There's also elements of base building, because although you can do what I've done and just let it all hang out, a lot of people like to neatly organize their factories into tidy buildings, making roads to connect them. You have a lot of options with how you make your areas. The sky's the limit. It takes a bit of time to get used to, but the zen of building factories and doing some quick and easy math is great for me. There are enemies littered around the world, but they're infrequent and they're mostly just there to force you to get a certain tool or weapon before adventuring out too far. Also, there are spider enemies, but there's an option to turn them off, which I very much appreciate. The bulk of the game is just spent designing your factories. This is the only game on the list that's still in early access, but it already feels like a complete game to me. All it's missing is a story that ties everything together. So, I said I wasn't going to talk about Animal Crossing, but I kinda just meant New Horizons. See, New Horizons is a completely different beast from previous Animal Crossing games, and I'd like to take a second to talk about New Leaf. New Leaf is a 3DS game, and even if you've played New Horizons, I think it's worth looking into. First, the game is a whole lot slower in a good way. You're not going to be optimizing your villager locations or making sure that there's a convenient path around every single obstacle. You'll take villagers where you get them, and you'll take the long way around, because you can't just terraform the entire world to your every whim. The vibe is just completely different. Now, the slow pace isn't to say you won't be unlocking new things. There's several major buildings to unlock, like the cafe or all the shop upgrades. You unlock new mechanics as you increase the rating of your town, and of course you can still decorate your own house to your heart's content. Outside of your house though, decoration is limited to public funding projects, kind of like the way that bridges work in New Horizons. So you're not going to be slapping down 10 street lamps in one day. Now, I will say, I do find that the soundtrack of this particular entry in the series puts it apart from the other games. Not a dig at New Horizons or anything, I just think it's hard to top. It really does suck that this game is a lot harder to get after the eShop went offline, but you can still find physical copies floating around there, and there are other methods. I saved one of my favorite games of all time for last. Ikenfell. This is a tactical RPG with Paper Mario-like action commands where you play as a party of magical students to uncover mysteries about what's been happening around the school. You, as the main character, have recently acquired an unconventional form of magic: fire. In this world, magic tends to be less elemental than that. For instance, there's glass, shadow, or paint magic. Now, I hesitate to list a game with this much combat as cozy, but everything about the difficulty is customizable up to having an auto win button if you really want it. Stylistically, it's a Game Boy Advance game, including the aspect ratio, which I thought was fun and quirky. I've said this a lot so far, but the music really sets it apart. In fact, it's the whole reason I picked up the game in the first place. The music was composed and performed by Ivy and Sarashu, and simply put, I will play any game that they compose for. And after doing that, I was delighted to find a game with tons of representation, fun ways to build your characters, and finally, paint magic. And that's me list. A lot of discussion around cozy games I see often is what the new farming game is coming out that month, and I really wanted to break away from that, especially since I'm not really interested in other farming games. Stardew Valley has me covered just fine. Really though, this was just an excuse for me to gush about my old favorites, but I hope you were able to find something that you like as well. Thank you for watching, I'll see you in the next one, and good night.